This is Taskmaster, and he doesn't speak a word of English. But what he does do is fry bozos in Apex Legends. Some even call him the greatest aimer on mouse and keyboard. This is how he aims, and this is how I aim now. Why does this matter? Well, yesterday I 1v1 one of my friends and got absolutely demolished. Come on, bro.
They dropped me.
What the? I could not believe how bad I was getting washed cause he wasn't even on controller. But while scrolling through my YouTube comments, I realized why I kept losing.
You see, some of you like Lucas Giannolini 3767 managed to break it down for me in a very nice way, but other people like underscore XDRC underscore were trying to give me hacks. Like, come on guys, I'm not that bad. Jeez.
So I know my aim sucks. I even had mouse acceleration turned on like a dork. But what I didn't know was how or what I could do to improve, so I started doing some research to figure out how I could become a phenom on M&K. And the more I researched, the more I realized how good I could actually become, cause there's a lot I didn't know. First of all, I realized that my sensitivity was way too high. I was playing on 800 DPI at 3.5 cents and it was a disaster. I found it very difficult switching targets, and I was either over aiming because I moved my mouse too much or under aiming because I didn't move it enough. Of course I noticed this when I first started playing, but I assumed I was just being a noob and would get better over time. But now I realized I was nerfing myself. Anyway, when I changed my sensitivity, it was like the training weights had come off and I was liberated. My beams were so much smoother and I didn't feel that icky slowness that comes with mouse acceleration. So if I could put my aim on the scale now, I'd say we went from a level 2 to about a level 5, just from changing my sensitivity. And I didn't miss targets who were standing still anymore. So with a much better sensitivity, I was ready to embark on my 10-day journey to becoming a human aimbot and finally getting my lick back against Zero. From the research I did, I knew I had to get into aim training because shooting dummies in the firing range wasn't gonna cut it anymore. So I had Aim Labs installed, which was specifically built to improve your aim. I wasn't sure what drills I should actually do, so I went with what was most popular in the playlist section.
Apex Legends Predator workout. Come on guys, it's definitely gonna happen someday.
Boys, I was sucking at this and couldn't keep my crosshair on the target. My reaction times were prehistoric, which was kind of disappointing since I always thought I got them flicks. The only task I was doing somewhat okay in was the grid shot where you have to pop these balloons. I was getting a feel for the aim trainer and I gotta admit, it was slightly harder than I thought it would be. Especially the timing and tracking drills, which were my biggest challenge. I ended up doing drills for about 30 minutes before hopping onto Apex to see if my training would actually translate to immediate in-game success. As you can see, it's not bad, but it's also not pretty. I ended up dying because of lag and went to sleep thinking how I was going to go harder the next day. And on day 2, I spent even more time on Aim Labs. I was popping balloons and practicing my aim for when I have to jump people coming around corners.
Pop, pop, pop.
I was doing much better since I actually understood how the drills work now. However, everything still needed a lot of work, but my confidence was slowly rising and I felt much more comfortable going for weird shots. I spent around 45 minutes just trying to be as accurate as I could and eventually ended the day with some Apex games to see how much I improved. I was kinda shocked to realize I could actually aim the Peacekeeper now. and was actually hitting shots, which was impossible for me before I started this journey. Although we lost, I was still top fragging for my team, which is an obvious improvement from what I used to be in the past. Honestly, I could have done much better if my internet wasn't botting out throughout the entire game, but we take what we get. But despite doing decent, I did notice how bad my tracking really was, and decided to tackle it the next day. I found this specialized Apex playlist from Voltaic, and I'm not gonna lie, this was pretty hard. At the end of it, I was pretty bummed out. A huge salute to everyone who gets onto Aim Train every day. I respect it because I was getting really bored, like
I was getting annoyed.
Okay, bro. But I guess that's the price of greatness, cause on day 4 I was absolutely fine man in game after doing a mind-numbing amount of aim training. However, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows, as my long distance aim was still pretty poop. I think this is mostly because my sensitivity is still somewhat high, even though I went down to a 2.25. The truth is, the higher your sensitivity, the harder it is to be accurate at longer ranges. But I wasn't willing to compromise anymore, since anything lower than 2.25 felt like a rock to me. In spite of that, I ended the day on a pretty positive note and went to bed excited for the next day. I started the day with a TDM, which got me pretty frustrated. Now this TSM Otai guy had my freaking number. I died to him so many flipping times. I ended up stopping the recording because it was getting kind of embarrassing. It wasn't pretty, guys. I hopped off Apex and got onto my aim trainer, and by this point my tracking and general aim had significantly improved. I was no longer missing the mark by a huge margin and was pretty on point for the most part. But I was kinda still salty from that loss earlier, so I decided to review the footage. And that's when I remembered something I had researched previously, which is the most crucial thing you have to learn before becoming a great player. You see, when most people talk of having good game mechanics, they're usually referring to good movement implementation and or aiming. But what the top 1% are actually talking about is strafing. And most people think they already have this down. But in reality, it's a little bit more complicated than you might think. Strafing from left to right equals good, right? I mean, you do need it for recoil smoothing, right? Well, not necessarily. Strafing from left to right isn't a bad tactic for the most part, but when you get past certain lobbies, you start to notice the issue. Any decent M&K player would spray you right down the middle, and you would get absolutely steamrolled against controller players. What you should be doing instead is either mirroring, anti-mirroring, or geometric strafing. I know, it's beginning to sound like a physics class, but stay with me here, I'll try to summarize. Mirroring is when you strafe and aim in the same direction as your opponent. If they move to the left, you beam them while following their movement. You still get recoil smoothing since you're moving at the appropriate speed. This is very effective for M&K players and should be on your skill set. Anti-mirroring, on the other hand, is more suited for roller players, and like the name sounds, is basically the opposite of mirroring. So if your opponent moves to the left, you strafe to the right, which is very OP for controller players because of rotational aim assist in Apex Legends. But arguably the most important of all is geometric strafing, as this pretty much combines game sense, environmental awareness, and your mechanics. It's essentially the ability to control space with your strafing, forcing your opponent into a losing position. Breaking all of these down would require an entire video, but you just need to know that I was going to be practicing all of this in something called R5. It's a very popular Apex mod and it allows you to do various training drills in a game-like setting. It even has a game mode where you can 1v1 real players to test your skill level. This was about to be a huge step up from all the aim labs I'd been doing, as I believed this was going to take my skills to the next level. And after hitting some balloons on day 6, I managed to get R5 installed and began filling it out. I did not expect it to be this hard. It felt like the dummies were moving so fast that I could barely keep up. Keep in mind I had done 30 minutes of aim training before this, so the fact that I was shooting like this was very concerning. Anyway, I kept trying my best, but it was hard to follow their strafes since they were moving so fast. Eventually, I was getting the hang of it and finally began strafing properly. I decided to try out their 1v1 servers to see how much I had actually improved. And every death was humbling, but it reminded me of why I was doing this in the first place. I was going to make sure that you experienced all my pain. And on day 7, I hit up Aim Labs and was proud of how far we've come since the beginning. I was constantly setting new records for the Aim Lab scenarios every day, but I had gotten to the point where I was sick of aim training. I cannot put into perspective how much I was bored. That's why I was making this my last day of official Aim Labs training in this challenge. It was a good run, but I needed to play the game to beat the game, and R5 was going to provide me with the tools I needed to wipe away my shame of losing to Year. So I said goodbye to Hardcore Aim Labs and hello to R5 Reels. Now it was still hard, but I think I was getting closer. I'm getting better. I think the hardest drill for me was the strafing dummy since they moved so fast. I've said this 100 times, but they move so damn fast. Anyway, I queued up 1v1s and them boys were not playing. Normally, I would get sad and pack it up, but I took solace in the fact that I was slowly improving. At this point, the goal of trying to strafe intelligently was kinda defeated, since when everyone's on crack movement, you feel the urge to hit a cheeky wall bounce as well, which was sort of distracting me from the main goal. Regardless of that, I was still happy with how far we had come. And with 3 days left to go, I needed to lock in, or else I would lose to my friend Year. So I did do after do after do after do for hours on day 8. And we finally got to day 9 when the season 20 update dropped, and I really wanted to see how I performed in game since it had been so long since I touched the main game.
I'm jumping
It turns out that significantly improved in terms of my fight positioning, but it also turns out that they nerfed the recoil of the R99, which was one of my favorite guns. So that's why you see me whiffing some R9 shots. The new season came with a new event which lets you unlock some legends. So on day 10, I decided to try Seer with my new aim and it went quite well.
My aim had drastically improved, and all that R5 Prowler practice was finally paying off.
I also had a pretty decent win which made me feel confident. I was ready. After 10 days of sweat, tears, and anger, it was finally time to face him once again. But this time, it was going to be different.
A bit too close for comfort. I'm taking shots.
This guy, bro. Okay.
I'm taking shots.
Bro, like, bro, I am getting cooked, bro. Bro. This cannot be happening. I spent almost 10 days in training. Okay, that was kind of cool.
This time I'm down.
Yeah, I got cooked. Moral of the story: I should play controller. Anyway, subscribe!